Okay. Let's try this again. Take number two. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? you know, the microphone works a lot better if you plug it in. And I'm the sound guy at church, right? Duh. Anyways, I just want to say this is Michael Cook coming to you live from Central Missouri. How are y'all doing today? As you're jumping on, say hi. I apologize about a few minutes ago not having my microphone plugged in. They say you don't have to be smart, you just have to show up. I am the perfect example of that. So as you're jumping on, let me know if you can hear me or not, because evidently you couldn't the last time I tried this. I just want to say that in my last couple of videos, I've had an outpouring of people expressing, saying how much they appreciated that, saying how it has affected them, and it's I don't know, it's nice to hear. It's confirmation that what I'm saying is actually getting out to people, and that is maybe making a difference. So hang in there. This fight ain't over. Joe Biden is not going to be president. I know. You turned on CNN and Fox News and they said he was. Of course they did, because they're on his side. But I'll tell you who's on our side, and that's the Almighty God. The God who's done miracles. And flip open the Bible, read a couple miracles, and understand that miracles are not that uncommon for God. But that's not where I wanted to go with this today. I wanted to talk about some things that are happening. And as I told you, that it's going to take some time, for things to start happening. In Gore versus Bush back in Florida in 2000, it was 38 days. And it was a week or so before they started tossing out ballots. And we ain't got that far yet. And besides that, we got to deal with all the Joe Biden voters first, because they're still out there trying to actively vote right now. This is one of them right here, celebrating the success of Joe Biden's presidential candidacy. So just be prepared that we got to deal with a lot of shenanigans coming around. So, but what I do want to talk about is that I just lost my train of thought. I feel like Joe Biden sometimes. No, that the SCOTUS, that's the Supreme Court of the United States of America, one justice of the SCOTUS in a emergency hearing ordered, here's an article from Politico, but you can find the article anywhere now. It's all over the news. They've said it on the radio, and it's getting harder for the media to spin the idea that there's no evidence of cheating. Okay, the SCOTUS, what they ruled was that the ballots that came in late have to be segregated and set aside. Okay, now why did they rule that? Because I'm going to give you a lesson. First of all, I want you to understand something. Okay, we are not a democracy. I flipped it on Fox News this morning. I know, I'm glutton for punishment. And every other commercial was them Republicans and the Democrats getting together. We must get along. We must hold hands and sing Kumbaya and unite under whoever wins this election, especially if it's Joe Biden. Just like they united under the last president. That's the way I'm going to unite anyway. Now, that being said, the SCOTUS has ruled, because understand we are not a democracy. I know that's sacrilegious to some of y'all, but we are not a democracy. We're never intended to be a democracy. Our founding fathers hated straight democracy. We are a constitutional. We are a nation of laws, not of men. A constitutional or representative republic. What have you wrought us? A republic, if you can keep it. That's what we are. Our federalist system. Now, some of you may not know what that means. What's federalist mean? The Fed, not that. Federalist is a form of government where several independent, sovereign nations, hear me? Hear what I'm saying to you? Several independent, sovereign, meaning sovereign in their own right, nations form a federal government to govern over them with authority granted by the several independent sovereign nations, or in the case of our Constitution, states. The states reign supreme. When the founding fathers, I think it's Section 1, Article 2 in the Constitution, somewhere right in there, I may be wrong, it's in there, trust me, it's like ragu. They said that the legislators of the several states seat the electors. Now, let me say that again. The Constitution set up by our brilliant founding fathers as a constitutional representative republic, in their infinite wisdom, deemed to dictate that the electors who elect the President of the United States of America are selected and seated by the legislator. Now, what this means is, in Pennsylvania, when the legislator said that we will seat our delegates by a popular vote of the state of Pennsylvania, and that those votes must be in by a certain date, November 3rd, 2020, this year, and that all votes after that date are null and void. That was the rule, that was the law that was on the books until just prior to the election, the governor and the Secretary of State, all Democrats, sued the state and took it to the state Supreme Court, and the state Supreme Court ruled, no, you can count up to 3 days. Now, so the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States of America, said, okay, we need to take those ballots that are now in question and set them aside. And we can count them, but we need to set them aside because they're in question and they're being challenged. Here's why. They're challenged on the ground that the governor, the Secretary of State, and the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania has no authority to change the legislature's opinion or law that they passed due diligently. They have no authority to change that law because the Constitution grants that authority to the legislator. Mind you, if this was a Democrat legislator and they said you have till Christmas 2035 to count the ballots, guess what? They're the final say so. But that is not the case. That is why the Supreme Court of the United States of America has pulled this ruling. Now, what does this mean? What does it do? It doesn't change anything yet. Now, here's what happens. In the middle of the night in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, they were dumping ballots. Where'd those ballots came from and when did they come in? That's the question, especially here in Pennsylvania where we have this ruling. That's the question. Where did they come from? When did it come in? Did it come in after? Because if they came in after, the highest authority of the land constitutionally said they're null and void. So if they're null and void, that will go to the Supreme Court. The Republican attorneys will bring it up and say they're null and void, and the argument will be presented before the Supreme Court. If they follow the Constitution, they will be rejected, period. If they follow the Constitution, that's the question. What kind of country are we? What kind of country do we want to be? You know, the Nicaraguan dictator, I'm not even going to try to say his name, you can read it there, once said, indeed, you've won the election, but you didn't win the count. Indeed, President Donald Trump won the election, but he's losing the count. So what kind of country are we? Is the question we need to ask. Now, here's the other problem. Here's the other problem that we have in this whole thing, or that the Democrats have in maintaining this lead, this so-called lead. The Republicans now have massive grounds because in the middle of the night, they started counting these votes with no one present, no observers present. And then when the observers tried to come back the next day, they kicked them out. They made them stand way far back with binoculars. They put tape up on the windows. They made it impossible for them to see what was going on. So all those ballots are in doubt, are in question. And now the president, excuse me, check that. When this gets to court, when this gets to the Supreme Court in full, en masse, the move that they're going to make, I'm not a lawyer and I don't play one on TV, and I did not stay in a Holiday Inn last night. But understand, this is the way I understand it. The move that will be made is this. Pennsylvania took those ballots that came in late and they didn't set them aside. They counted them and commingled them. So they're not going to be able to pull those ballots out so that we can count those ballots, count all the ballots, we don't know which ballots those were. But we do know that 139,000 here and 10,000 there and 250,000 here and 500,000 there all showed up for Joe Biden and they could not be counted. And in that pile, there's probably a handful for Trump. And they could not be confirmed. What's going to ultimately happen is all of those, that whole batch of ballots is going to be thrown out, chucked, gone, goodbye. See ya, can't count them because of fraud. Those are the two choices, actually one of the two choices. The other choice is, and has been done in Pennsylvania, is that those counties will have to revote. What a mess that would be. It also has been done, I don't think it was in Pennsylvania, and I can't remember what it was, but I do remember it mentioned that a whole county could not come up with an accurate count. So the state legislators, mind you, the ultimate authority in each state granted by the Constitution is the legislators, null and void the whole count of the county. Now, what would happen if the legislator in Pennsylvania null and void the whole count of the counties around Pennsylvania? Oh my God, heads would explode. But it could be done, is what I'm saying to you. Those are legal things that could be done. There's also the same kind of lawsuit going on in Arizona and New Mexico. It's also the same kind of lawsuit going on in North Carolina, in Georgia, in Michigan, in Wisconsin. All those states have the same problems, and all the states are suffering from the mail-in ballots that came in late against the rules that were already set, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Once we have a precedent, once we have a Supreme Court, and this is going to be next week sometime, ruling to chuck ballots in one state, all the other states are going to say, me too, me too, me too. And that's when the dominoes are going to start falling. That's when the heads are going to start exploding. That's when Rachel Maddow's going to be crying on TV and mascara running all down like this. It's going to be terrible. That's when you're going to have the riots in the streets that I promised in an earlier video. But hey, they delayed it, not me. Go to their website. They delayed it. They delayed it because they assumed that all this that I just said was going to happen in the first 48 hours, but our system's slower than that, and they didn't take that into account. I only told you what they said they were going to do, and they're still saying they're going to do it. They just have to wait for the things to happen to make it happen. So this is where we are. Understand that we are not a democracy. No matter what they tell you on Fox News, no matter what they tell you on MSNBC, we are not a democracy. When Nancy Pelosi gets up and gave her speech talking about how great democracy is, we are not a democracy. We are a constitutional representative republic. Our federal system was set up by the originally 13 sovereign nations, formed an alliance, an agreement to form a federal government in the Constitution, granting their just powers from the states to the Fed. The states are sovereign over the Fed. The legislator of the states, according to the Constitution, are the final authority. Under Gore versus Bush, when Gore finally decided to concede, it wasn't because it was before the Supreme Court. Not at all. It's because the legislator, then Republican, was going to seat the electors regardless. And once the legislator decided they were going to seat him, it was over. There's no more argument. It's done. I want to remind you one more thing before I get off here and let you guys go enjoy your Saturday. New Mexico, Arizona, Georgia, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wyoming. Every one of those states has a Republican majority legislator. This is not at all over. And when this is all said and done and the investigation is over, we will see that the greatest fraud ever committed on the United States of America was done by Joe Biden and his campaign. No wonder he didn't try. He knew the fix was in. He knew the fix was in. I'm going to say it one more time. He knew. He knew. Kamala Harris knew. Barack Obama knew. Nancy Pelosi knew. Chuck Schumer knew. They all knew. The fix was in. You know, when John McCain bowed out of the race because Barack Obama whooped him, you know, all these same things happened then. Go back and look. In all the same cities, votes just appeared for Barack Obama. But John McCain, because he loves America and he's a humble man, decided he didn't want to put America through that. And Mitt Romney, too. Same thing. Go back and look. Same cities. Same thing happened. But he's a Mormon, and he doesn't like to fight. Oh, America, I love you so much. I'm not going to put you through this. Let me tell you something. Donald J. Trump is a fighter. He is not going to surrender because the deep state told him so. He's been fighting these same bastards since the day he walked down the street, Pennsylvania Avenue, and put his hand on that Bible and swore in. The next day they started their war against him. I'm here to tell you, batten down the hatches, because it's going to be a wild ride, and it is nowhere near being over. Make sure you're prepared. Make sure you got some shelf-stable food and bottled water and whatnot, because I don't know what's coming, but it's going to be huge when it comes. It's going to shock the world. Have a great day. Enjoy your weekend. I'll probably see you Monday.